At my son's wedding, that night, my life was shattered in front of everyone I knew. Not in private. Not behind closed doors. But in a room full of guests, music, laughter, and fake smiles. A woman walked up to me holding a bowl of hot food. For a split second, I thought she was just passing by. I was wrong. She lifted the bowl and threw it directly into my face. The heat burned my skin. The spices burned my eyes. But what hurt more than the pain was the smile on her face. A slow, satisfied smile. She leaned closer and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "This is what you deserve." The room went silent. My name is Deborah Harris. I am 62 years old. And what happened at my son's wedding reception didn't just embarrass me. It erased me. Before you think this is just another family drama, let me tell you something. This story is about betrayal. It's about power. It's about how money can turn love into a weapon. If you've ever felt pushed aside by people who think they're better than you, stay with me until the end. Before we go any further, take 1 second. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this are happening in families all over the world. Now let me take you back to how a mother who gave everything ended up being treated like nothing. For most of my life, it was just me and my son, Raymond. His father left when Raymond was 3 years old. No warning. No apology. No support. One day he was there. The next day, his closet was empty. From that moment on, I stopped being just a mother. I became a survivor. I worked in a hospital during the day. I cleaned houses at night. On weekends, I altered clothes for neighbors to make extra money. My hands were always dry from chemicals. My feet were always swollen. My body was always tired. But every time I looked at my son sleeping, I told myself, this is worth it. Raymond grew up seeing everything. He saw me cry quietly in the kitchen so he wouldn't hear. He saw me count pennies to buy groceries. He saw me skip meals so he could have seconds. He used to wrap his little arms around me and say, "Mama, when I'm big, you won't have to work anymore." Those words kept me alive. Raymond was my pride. He did well in school. He stayed out of trouble. He went to college on scholarships and my savings. I sold jewelry my mother left me. I worked double shifts. I told myself I didn't need vacations, new clothes, or rest. All I needed was to see my son succeed. And he did. He got a corporate job. He moved into a nice apartment. He started wearing expensive suits. For a while, he still called me every week. For a while, he still came over for dinner. For a while, I still felt like his mother. Then he met Brianna. From the first time I heard her name, I felt something shift. Not because I was jealous. But because the way Raymond talked about her changed. She wasn't just a girlfriend. She was a new world. Brianna came from wealth. Her family lived in a gated community. Her father owned businesses. Her mother, Lorraine, was known for class and status. The first time I met them, I knew I didn't belong. They smiled. But it was the kind of smile that measures you. Lorraine looked at my shoes. My purse. My hair. She asked polite questions with sharp edges. "What do you do, Deborah? How long have you lived in that neighborhood? Oh, that's nice." Nice. The way she said it made it sound small. From that day on, I felt it. She didn't want me near her daughter's future. She didn't want me near her son-in-law's life. Little by little, Raymond changed. He stopped coming by as often. He said he was busy. He said Brianna had family events. Every excuse came with the same message. "You're not the priority anymore." I told myself this was normal. I told myself this is what happens when children grow up. But deep down, I knew something darker was happening. One night, Lorraine invited me to dinner. Her house was huge. Cold. Perfect. Everything looked expensive and untouchable. I felt like a guest in a museum. During dinner, they talked about investments, vacations, private schools for future grandchildren. No one asked me anything about my life. Then Lorraine leaned toward me and said quietly, "Deborah, Raymond is entering a different level of life now. He has responsibilities. Expectations. Expectations." She said it like a warning. She continued, "He can't be held back by emotional attachments. He needs to focus on building something bigger." Emotional attachments. That was me. I went home that night shaking. But I stayed silent. Because I didn't want to lose my son. The wedding planning began, and I was pushed further out. They chose luxury venues. Expensive designers. Things I could never afford. They didn't ask my opinion. They didn't ask my help. They acted like I was just a guest. Not the woman who raised him. Then came the dress shopping. They invited me, but only to sit quietly. When I gave honest advice, Lorraine's face went cold. From that day on, the air between us changed. She stopped pretending. She started treating me like an obstacle. The closer the wedding got, the colder my son became. He defended them. He excused their behavior. He told me I was being sensitive. Sensitive. That's what people say when they don't want to face the truth. On the day of the wedding, I stood in front of my mirror and looked at myself. Gray in my hair. Lines on my face. Hands shaped by years of work. And I told myself, "You earned every line. You earned every scar." I went to that wedding proud. Not of the money. Not of the venue. But of the boy I raised. During the reception, I sat quietly. I smiled. I clapped. And then Lorraine walked toward me. She was holding a bowl. At first, I thought she was just passing by. Then she stopped. Then she lifted it. Then she threw it. Hot food. On my face. On my dress. On my dignity. "This is what you deserve," she said. People froze. Some looked away. Some pretended not to see. And then my son stood up. I waited. I waited for him to defend me. I waited for him to say stop. Instead, he crossed his arms and said, "She's right, Mom." That was the moment my heart cracked. Not because of Lorraine. But because of him. I wiped my face. I stood up. I walked out. But before I left, I made a call. 3 words. It's time. Because for months, I had been quiet. For months, I had been watching. For months, I had been learning things I wasn't supposed to know. About money. About lies. About secrets. Their perfect image started to crack. The same people who humiliated me came back asking for help. But this time, I said no. Not out of revenge. But out of self-respect. Today, I still love my son. But I no longer beg for a place in a life where I am treated like a burden. Because a mother's love is unconditional. But a mother's dignity is not optional. Sometimes, you have to walk away, not because you stopped loving, but because you finally started respecting yourself. If this story touched you, like this video. Subscribe for more real-life stories. And tell me in the comments. Have you ever been pushed aside by someone you sacrificed everything for?